Hello, today we're going to be talking about Chapter 1, Section 1, the economic way of thinking. The first thing we're going to talk about is defining economics. Economics is the study of how individual societies satisfy their unlimited wants with limited resources. Before we can really jump into what economics is, we need to define wants and needs. Wants are desires that can be satisfied by consuming a good or a service. Generally, we think of wants as things that we don't have to have, but just desire to have. And these things are unlimited. A need, on the other hand, are things that are necessary for survival. This is like food, shelter, and clothing. In my image here, you can see that this boy is trying to decide whether he wants the need, which is the apple because it's nutritious, or the want, which is the stack of cookies. The next term we need to define is scarcity. Scarcity exists when there are not enough resources to satisfy human wants. The image you see here is of a desert, and obviously the water is the thing that is scarce. Now we may think of something as a desert where water is scarce when we think about the term scarcity, but in reality, scarcity exists everywhere, even here in the United States. Technically, if you think about water, it is scarce here as well. There is a limited amount of water on the Earth's surface that people have access to, and that's what makes it scarce. We do not have an infinite amount of any resource, so everything is considered scarce. Scarcity and choice. The resources for satisfying human wants are limited. Collectively, we want more than we can produce with our limited resources. Economists help to determine the use of scarce resources to satisfy the most important wants. Because resources are desirable and scarce, we must make choices for the use of these resources. Economics is the study of choice. We are going to be looking at how people use their resources, like money, to make decisions. There are two principles of economics. The first one is that people have wants. All people have wants. Those wants may be different from person to person, but every person has a want. The second principle is that scarcity affects everyone. And while we may be thinking about people who have less things and scarcity affecting them, scarcity affects billionaires as well. And we'll get to that later. Scarcity leads to the three economic questions. Every economy must answer these three economic questions when thinking about their resources. The first thing to consider is what will be produced. The second thing is how will it be produced? And the last one is for whom will it be produced? We will look more at this when we talk about the different economic systems and how those economic systems are forced to answer these questions. In the meantime, you need to commit these three questions to memory because they will come up again. The next thing we need to talk about are the factors of production. There are 4 factors of production. These are the things that go into making any type of good or service. The first one we're going to talk about is land. Land refers to all natural resources used to produce goods and services. As you can see here in this image, this is land, and it actually represents physical land where you might have a farm or you could build a building. But when talking about land as a factor of production, we are not always referring to the actual place where something is happening. This refers to all natural resources. So it could be the dirt that someone is using to create a good or produce a service, or it could be a precious mineral that goes into making some other type of good or service. For example, copper, iron ore, those things would be considered land. The next factor of production is labor. Labor is all of the human effort used to produce goods and services. These are going to be the workers. So here you can see these workers here are working in a field. But your workers don't all look the same. Some workers may be working in offices. You may have some that are working out in the field where they work, whether that be a actual farming field or that could just be the area in which they are working. The third one is capital. all of the resources made and used by people to produce goods and services. So you can see here, this appears to be some type of warehouse, and you can also see that they have a machine here that's able to get things down or put things up. This machine is considered capital because it is created by man, but this machine is being used to present or create some type of product or service. These containers that are holding what looks like tires here, these containers also represent capital. They are made by humans, but they are being used to create a good or provide a service. A computer can be considered capital as well. So if you're thinking about somebody who works in an office and they may be working on a computer all day, the computer itself would be the capital. And finally, entrepreneurship, the vision, skills, and risk-taking needed to create and run businesses. People who create a business always are taking a big risk. There's a lot of money involved, a lot of time and effort. They have to have the vision to create the business itself and to keep it running. That requires a lot of skills and knowledge. And so that drive in itself is considered entrepreneurship. And you must have that as well in order to create goods and services.